On today's Hunt Harvest Health podcast, we chat with our good friend Stephen Dahn. Stephen is an avid bow hunter, a train-to-hunt competitor, personal trainer extraordinaire, and one of the most inspirational people Ryan and I know. Ryan first met Stephen at the Nevada Train-to-Hunt Regionals in 2016, and since then he's been on the top of our list to interview for this podcast. When we thought of folks we wanted to talk with, we envisioned those who were authentic, motivated, healthy, and added a positive vibe to the backcountry hunting movement. It's hard in today's world to find people who make you want to strive for greatness, who lift you up and sincerely listen. Stephen Dahn has all of those qualities and more. We love Stephen Dahn, and after today's podcast, we know you will too.
Okay, howdy folks, and welcome back to the Hunt Harvest Health podcast with your hosts, Ryan and Hillary Lampers. And today, we're pretty fortunate to have a guest on who I've come to know during this past year. I've watched this guy compete in several of the Train to Hunt qualifier events, as well as the Nationals event held in Salt Lake City, Utah this year. I met Stephen Dahn. Actually, I went down to Nevada this year, and I kind of a backstory. I showed up down there by myself. I'd driven down to Nevada, and I had never done a train to hunt event. Pulled into the parking lot, kind of drove up this dirt road into this little just picturesque valley, and saw some guys out there shooting, and they were setting up the course and this and that. I was a little kind of one of those guys that just likes to sit back and kind of watch the show. So I kind of just sat in my truck and watched these guys moving around. I noticed right away there was a few individuals that stood out. Stephen was one of them. Trevor was one of them. Trevor Nystrat. Some guys, Scott Carr was there. I had heard of, the incredible Scott Carr. I believe Stephen was partnered up with Trevor, Lane Walter, and also I think it was Dave Baronio, I believe.
And George Fuji.
George Fuji.
Yeah.
And man, I at one point, I got to kind of just watch them shoot a couple of the 3Ds, and it's like, man, these guys are impressive. I don't even know why I'm here. These guys, they got what I call shirt shooters. They're out there and they just look like professional shooters, and I figured, man, this is intimidating, and especially when you see a guy like Stephen, pretty intimidating dude. But I got to know him a little bit there. Also, I ran into him up at the Oregon qualifier, and watched him destroy that course as well. And also, like I said, we got to hang out over at the Nevada or the Utah Nationals. And every time I've gotten to talk to Stephen, I'm always super impressed by how just absolutely motivating this guy is. I kind of look forward to following your Instagram every day and kind of get a daily dose of motivation through Stephen. Always got great quotes on there, just kind of inspirational things and what he's doing. Really fun guy to follow. So with that, Stephen, how you doing?
Pretty good, buddy. How are you guys?
Great.
Hi, Stephen.
Great.
Hi, Hillary.
So I guess to start things off, maybe we could just get a little bit of a background, where you come from, where you're at now, how you kind of got into hunting and training and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for all those kind words to start. You go into those scenarios and you think, man, only the good ones are here. So we were probably thinking the same thing about this guy that showed up out of nowhere and put it on everybody. You know what? I grew up in Michigan, the nice tropical side of the country, and cold winters, long cold winters.
Yeah, I heard. I've never been there, but yeah.
Imagine cold and then add a couple layers to that, and that's what you've got with Michigan. Beautiful summers. We grew up way out in the country. I mean, I had over an hour bus ride one way, with the clearest of roads. So, I had a great childhood growing up. We were that generation, that wasn't too late to still go out and play in the dirt. We made our own toys, and we got dirty, and we ate dirt, and we broke fingers, and all this fun stuff. And, so when I was 7 or 8, my dad had 3 or 4 bows hanging in our basement, and I used to play with them and try to pick them up. They're so heavy and pull on them. And, I'd watch him and my uncle and my cousins shoot. And I thought, man, that would be super fun to do. And so, he tuned down one of these bows when I was young, and I started pulling it and practicing it. And football season got in the way. Oh. And so then I got really excited about football season. And then, a year or two of that built my strength. And all of a sudden I'm pulling this compound bow back. And it was probably 45 or 50 pounds,
Sure. And how old were you?
I was a big kid, right?
Yeah.
I was probably 9.
Wow.
So, I started shooting archery. One of his friends, I'm a left-hander too. So, you're talking in the 80s, finding a left-handed bow wasn't probably the easiest thing to do. One of my dad's friends was getting out of hunting, and he was a left-hander, and he had this old pro line, and you couldn't crank it down far enough for me to pull it, and so that was part of the deal. And one day I just happened to pull it. My dad says, "Let's go get you some arrows. Let's get you shooting." And fast forward a couple years, 12 years old back in the day was the legal hunting age to hunt archery. Mm-hmm. So I went out, and Michigan doesn't have quite the topography. I live in Southern Oregon now. It doesn't have quite the topography in the rolling hills and stuff, but there's a little bit of land to cover. And that's when I realized hunting is hard. It takes some exercise and some fitness. And
absolutely.
That's what got it started. So started that. Been hunting whitetails my whole life out of a tree stand. Layering up. You couldn't walk a mile in the gear because it's so cold. Sure. But you stay warm sitting in a tree stand. So that kind of got it all started.
So how long were you in Michigan? When did you move away from that and come
Yeah, home? So when I was 23, out of high school, I started playing semi-pro football. I played football my whole life and raced motorcycles, and there was a point where I grew a little bit too fast, and these dirt bikes would really take off with the smaller guys, that were my age. But I kind of grew out of it, And I played football my whole life and bow hunted my whole life, and it was a perfect mixture of seasons. And when I was 23, I actually moved to Florida, and the plan was to try out and play some arena football down there. And long story short, it kind of fell through, and I got into a couple of small businesses and launched my first fitness training company. And it's history from there, I guess you might say. So I was 23 when I left Michigan.
23, yeah. So, and you moved down. Now you're in Southern Oregon, or
Southern Oregon, yeah, in Ashland.
Okay. Did you get right into hunting, or is it something that you would just never quit doing year to year, straight from Michigan here to hunting, or was
it? Yeah, it's a great question, actually. So when I moved to Florida, I was 23. Goal was athletics, and I noticed down there wasn't a lot that I felt compelled to hunt. The deer are really small. There's pigs everywhere.
Right.
But I don't know. I wasn't super inspired. I love all my Floridian friends and everything that they do. I was never really a big saltwater fisherman, so I have always been an athlete, and I decided to stick with the fitness and do that whole thing. So there was about a 9-year gap where I didn't really hunt at all. Wow. And I felt like there's this huge gap in my life, this huge hole. And the idea of moving out to the Pacific Northwest was amazing.
For sure, yeah.
So,
9 years, wow, I couldn't imagine.
Could you imagine? So, that was enough of that. So
yeah, for sure. So, when you, I guess, Southern Oregon, Ashland, what do you guys have down there? You guys hunting blacktails, or you hunting mule deer, or what have you spent your time hunting the most besides whitetail in Michigan?
We have lots and lots and lots of blacktails down here. Okay. As you get over towards like the Klamath Falls area, and slightly north of that, you start getting some mule deer integrated in. Mm-hmm. And apparently some of the boys are even saying that there's a mule deer blacktail hybrid that's starting to run around. We've got a pretty decent amount of elk down here, even though you get what I guess Scott Carr nailed it. You gotta say 2 names on podcasts is what I found out the last 3 months. Ryan Lampers and Scott Carr. So I'm just gonna get that out of the way. Get my claim to fame. Scott Carr says the Keystone Crew, right? the truck hunters. And so if you can get out away, which you're obviously as educated as anybody on that, you get out away from those guys, there's some decent elk, lots and lots of black bear, big black bear, lots of cougars. So, there's plenty of stuff, lots of turkeys, big fat turkeys as well. So, and we're pretty much firing up the season on all of them right now. Black bear's open, turkey just opened, waterfowl. Saturday morning is late season blacktail archery. So,
Right. Now, I talked to you the other day. I think you were either hanging a tree stand or getting ready to head to a tree stand, or
yeah, I was. Yep, I was grabbing some tree steps from an older tree stand that we put up for a buddy who he'd never really hunted in a tree stand, and so we put probably 10 too many tree steps in there, to make him feel comfortable. And so I went and pulled 4 or 5, and that's when you and I were chatting. But yeah, I was stealing steps from one stand to take to. Big reasons, yeah.
Gotcha. One of the questions I really wanted to kind of pick your brain on is, like I said in the intro, every time I hear people talk about you or I see you through social media, you've always got these great quotes. I don't know how you become so motivating or inspirational, but I'm always reading your stuff and come away with a smile on my face. So, I guess I'd like to know, like, what's motivating you to be kind of in this new age of hunter athlete. What motivates you to train so hard, and is this a lifestyle for you?
Man, great question. I think that so I'm 36 years old, right? I've been an athlete my entire life, and every season athlete. Now I'm like, what do 36-year-olds do?
Went through that.
Yeah. It's a lifestyle, man. I have played really, really hard my entire life since the time I was a kid. I was warned to take care of my body, more on not really the nutrition side as much. I didn't really have that much guidance until I was a late teenage or something like that with that. But more like, hey, you should stop jumping out of those trees, stop riding those dirt bikes. These broken arms and legs and, knee surgery and stuff, that stuff's going to catch up with you. And I'm like, whatever, you guys have never been old. You don't know what you're talking about, or you've never been young, excuse me. You don't know what you're talking about. So, fast forward 16 years,
yeah.
It's that lifestyle. It's that I need to keep myself active because my joints feel better that way. I think that it kind of getting back to your question of motivation, it's just one of those, I tell a lot of my clients, I have a lot of clients. I'm very fortunate to have a successful fitness training business, and my clients, are all interviewed. I interview every single one of my clients, and about 30% of them I work with. Because at the end of the day, it's about all of us having a stress-free day. Like, the only way that I can make an income is when I show up, right? Which is great. So I want to make sure that if I'm at the gym for yesterday was like 11 hours, right? I have 11 hours of clients who post-election. So I gave everybody 5 words. You have 5 political words. Everything after that per word is 10 burpees. There wasn't one burpee performed yesterday. Wow. It worked out perfect.
I mean, did you take a class? Did you have a mentor? Is there somebody who helped you get this way? Kind of the mindset that you have? Because we want to take that class. We want to get motivated.
Yeah, it's fail a lot.
Okay, well, that's actually a really good. Everybody fails who's successful.
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're afraid of failing, you're never going to achieve any of your goals. And so I think that for me, I think that I share a lot of this with my clients because we have all these commonalities, which is what's brought us together anyway. We're all willing to throw that caution to the wind in a sometimes responsible manner, right? And I think when you get something back from that, and I train probably 95% women for several reasons, and I'll get to that. But I think that when you put yourself out there and you achieve something as a guy, we want instant feedback. We want instant gratification. It's in our DNA, right? So I can go out and shoot my bow, and I can be like, that was good or bad. I can go run and I can pound uphill. I love to put weight in my pack and pound up a mountain. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's a sicko thing. You've got it. Most of these people that listen to you have it, And when I get that feedback, it feels good. It's just one of those things that it's like it's the same as maybe a long day of training my clients. I even tell them, sometimes I get more out of this than you're going to. I go home with a full heart and knowing that I've helped you do something that maybe we couldn't do a week ago, or I make all of my clients do monthly fit tests, right? 95% of them look forward to them. Other five, because they're tough. They test your fitness. You've got an hour to get this large amount of dynamic movements done, and you can look forward to it next month. And there's always improvement. And so that feedback keeps me going. It keeps me.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. One thing, when I did go down to Nevada, kind of like I said, I went there not knowing what to expect. I just wanted to get through it. I didn't know anybody. The only guy I did actually know was I did know Kent. I'd met Kent in the backcountry years and years ago, but we hadn't talked for a while, and so it was good to catch up with him. But through all that, after the 3D shoot and the meat pack and the challenge, what I took away from that event, I think Hill said it before. When I got back, I was so pumped up that I was super motivated because if I'd have done that by myself, I've done a lot of, real meat packs, I guess, where you're packing in a lot of weight or packing out a lot of weight. But man, with all the other guys that were down there that were kind of sharing in all that and just, like boosting everybody up, picking everybody up when they're just as tired as you could get. That made me want to come back and do it more. I wouldn't have got that if I would have been by myself solo. Whereas I had guys like you and Trevor and Dave and these guys that were just like, encouraging me to do it and finish strong and leave it all out there.
Yeah.
Saying that several times, just leave it all on that hill. When you get done with it and you get to sit around with other folks that have done the same thing and you're beat down, dog tired, and that whatever it is super motivating to just keep wanting to do more of that. It definitely hooked me, and from there I just wanted to do them every weekend after that.
Right.
That would have never happened if I wouldn't have met the guys that I did at that event and had that kind of encouragement.
The reason that we're doing this podcast is pretty much we have all of it to owe to Train to Hunt, because Ryan's pretty internal dude. I think like a lot of hunter kind of solitude guys are. I mean, he wants to be in the backwoods and he wants to be alone. It's always how he is. He has a handful of friends, and he's very selective, really, about who he shares himself with. So, boy, he came back from Train to Hunt. It's like, what happened?
Yeah.
Who like abducted my like introverted, quiet, shy husband? I think you're more of an extrovert. Just by the way you are. What Train to Hunt did was it kind of brought a lot of guys together that could feed off of each other and then teach each other kind of these really important things when it comes to life. And I feel really happy that Ryan was exposed to you guys and that he could understand that he had a lot to offer as well as a lot to learn from people who are more extroverted.
I don't know if I could. I mean, that was perfect. There's this big conglomeration of personalities and introverts, extroverts, that whole deal. And yeah, we definitely do take. I mean, I could tell you those 3 or 4 people that we've talked about alone, not even some of the ladies who I'm terrified that I would never want to compete against some of those. But at the same time, Hillary, I think you're right. I think that there's something we go to Train to Hunt, we drink the punch, you see amazing people like you guys and like everyone else that's been mentioned and all those that haven't been mentioned, and you're like, man, I can't wait to see those people again. I can't wait to feed off their energy and to get, social media is so much, it's the same thing. It's like, man, I see this amazing meal or this super amazing powdered kale, and I'm like, gosh, I just want to rub my face in that. Like that's what I want to do. I want that
Believe me, we practically do the kale.
Throw it up in the air and stand under it, so it's a great community. I get so much feedback and so much love. And, this morning I was making a little video for a guy that I met through Train to Hunt about what's my shot sequence, what do I do? And I'm, trying to make the video as nice as I can for him so he can understand it, It's great. It's a great community and we learn so much from each other. Yeah.
I see guys like you, and what are the secrets for you when it comes to your training? I know you train a lot of people. Like you mentioned, Trevor. Um, what do you do different in your training of folks that aren't going to be going in the backcountry? They're not involved with hunting or put a pack on. Is that training any different when you're training, guys that don't do that versus guys that's kind of the main reason why they train?
I don't work with anybody that's fresh off the couch. That's one of my things. You don't have to be a pro athlete, but you have to be. I like to call myself a get it back specialist. So, Hillary, you were a horse. You showed horses, or you raced horses. You did something with a horse, and you fell and broke both of your legs in your real formative years, and you get into your late teenage years, and you're scared of that, so you don't do it anymore. And then you meet Ryan, and he's
For me, it was mountain bikes.
Okay, mountain bikes, perfect. Mine were dirt bikes.
Number of mountain bike injuries.
Yeah, sure. So you get tore up, and then it's like, I think I'm done with that. I might get into the corporate world, or I might get married or have children or start a family or something. There's all these things that can get in the way of moving your body in a functional manner, right? So you realize that you meet some crazy person like me who won't let you slow down, and then you figure out, what it is you want to do. What are you training for? I see it two ways. There's a workout. You can work out or you can train. I train. I train every day. It doesn't mean that I'm working out. It doesn't mean that I'm lifting weights, but I train. Like today, I want to work on some different shot sequences.
So training is more specific, I guess. You would focus.
Right. Training specificity is how I live my life. Functional. What is it that you want to do? I get a husband that wants to be a better slalom skier. Okay, perfect. I know exactly what we need to do to make you the best slalom skier that you can be. I can't make you ski better, but I can make your body react to, respond to, stronger to, your stamina, that kind of stuff. And then maybe his wife wants to go mountain bike riding with Hillary, And so then we figure out what's the best course of action for that. And those might be two different things, but we might be able to train 80% of that together. So I can mix those people into a group. We can do one-on-one. I can, there's so many different options. For me, I grew up, once I was too big to race dirt bikes anymore, I started grappling and getting into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and as a form of self-defense, as a form of flexibility, and as a form of fitness. And so I would train specifically for grappling, and now it's all I want to do is put 60 or 70 pounds in my pack and hike as far as I possibly can. You know what I mean? As long as I can find water to purify. So I train for that. I don't do big, crazy, heavy sets on my legs because I need the stamina. So I might get on a spin bike and, it's specifically to what you're doing. And I will admit that when it comes to about April or May, a lot of my clients, I like to work out with different groups of my clients, and pretty much all of them at one point within every 2 weeks. And they get suckered into this, really tough backwoods style wilderness athlete training, So some of them do get pulled into it just because that's the deal, because it's what I want to do.
Sure.
But really, if you're training someone to go, a lot of people want to be fit for show, right? I want to look good for summertime, or, I tell all of my ladies, admit it or not, most of us have a mirror in our bathroom. We do that pre and post, or one of the two shower checkout, where everything's where it's supposed to be, right? or it's not. And if it's not, then we should talk about that, And so we kind of have these ideas of what healthy is to us or fit is to us, or, gosh, that could go off to 3 hours of a podcast. But really what it is for me is I train to go. The byproduct of that is you've aesthetically pleasing physique, right? So I'm not real big. I don't do a bunch of bicep curls and stuff. I pick up heavy sandbags when I'm around. I do the stuff that you do as well to train. Because when I go out there and I shoot a bull and he's 800 pounds, and if I don't have any help, I better have some stamina. I better have some food, right? And I better have that will and determination to know that I'm going to recover and I'm going to be able to go back for that second load or whatever it is. So very specific to what they're doing.
So functional,
So
fight towards hunters. That makes complete sense. I can't tell you how many guys, just say like a simple hike. I've met guys that are phenomenal bikers, bicycle riders, mountain bikers. And what I've noticed is, you might take them on just a short 5-6 mile hike, and they're in phenomenal shape. You look at them, and they're giant quads, and they're just shredded from biking. And they have a real hard time with a simple hike with some weight on their back.
Yeah.
And like you always hear, when you're out hunting, it's really hard to replicate without actually doing what we do out there, which is, like you say, and like you train for, is hike with weight.
Yeah.
If you don't train specifically for that, it seems like you're going to pay the consequences if you're just in there riding the bike or the Stairmaster, or whatever you do in the gym.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the big game out here in these western states, we've got topography, we've got big game, and they're going to use that elevation to their advantage. We stand on two legs. They've got 4-wheel drive. They can absolutely. You've seen elk run up hills that you're like, there's no way I'm going up that hill. There's no way. There's no way. How do they run up that hill so fast? So I'm thinking, how can I be more like an elk? They have big, strong parts where they need them, and they're lean in parts where they need to be lean. And they're monstrous animals. So, yeah, it's all about.
There's a lot of there's kind of a movement even in like natural medicine circles about how we've kind of become a society of people who are not functionally moving at all through our day. We are sitting in chairs, we're sitting in cars, we're sitting on couches, we're not moving enough. And obviously in the health realm, we know that, we're seeing that in our culture, not just in the States, but all over the world in sedentary cultures. But a lot of it is that we're not really functionally moving anymore like we used to. We're not chopping wood and carrying water anymore. Like, basically, they're saying, don't even have a couch in your house. Don't have chairs in your house. Sleep on a bed that's on the floor so that you get used to squatting down and standing up and using body weight and not easily putting yourself on something that's supporting your weight, which stops the functional movement of your joints. You become really aware of it, especially when you live, we live north of Seattle. Ryan does a lot of driving, commuting, all that kind of stuff. And you really realize it when you sit for long periods of time.
Yeah, it's one of the most
exhausting,
terrible things you can do to your body.
It is.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally, yeah. I mean, and I'm very fortunate to have trained some pretty, I don't know how I got so fortunate, but some pretty outstanding human beings. One being kind of the head of functional medicine, a gentleman named Dr. David Jones, who is,
wow,
leagues and leagues ahead, So I get to pick his brain. I've got this gentleman named Stanley Mazer, who and two other gentlemen invented the very first microprocessor for Intel in the 60s, right? So I've got these crazy, brilliant minds that are on both sides of this whole thing, and one knows everything scientific, and the other one knows everything because he's literally traveled the world sharing medicine with everybody. So you get all these different perspectives, and the sitting disease, we like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that disease, that sitting disease. It's time to get up, and there's so much of life nowadays. I like that you brought up the fact that there's kind of this lack of necessary responsibilities, right, Hillary?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to cut your wood for a fire anymore. You don't have to go out, and not as many people have chickens and livestock anymore. So you don't have to get up at 4 a.m. and feed and water everything, break the ice, and you don't have to do all those things. And it's easier. You can do some kind of monthly EFT, and someone will come and do it for you.
But we're not that far genetically away from right. So we need that functional movement. We actually, I think, mentally and emotionally need a bit of stress to build neural pathways so that we understand hardship, and that also can develop a mindset,
Sure, absolutely.
And I know for Ryan, when he does some of this crazy stuff he does, what he loves the most from it is that he's building stamina of his mind. And it's really all mindset when it comes down to it. You have to be a good athlete. You have to be able to shoot well. You have to, but
there's something to be
you
said.
have to have this really strong mindset. And this chop wood, carry water thing, it actually kind of does that for you. you go to the gym, you run on a treadmill or whatever, and you are done.
Well,
you
I
go
think
sit
a
in
lot
your
of
car and you don't do anything again for 3 days.
Yeah.
and I think
Right.
that's why Stevens, your program is probably so much more beneficial. You look at a lot of people. A lot of people just go to the gym, religiously. They may go 5 days a week, 7
Yep.
They go there and they wonder why they're not. They just kind of go through motions. I've noticed with some people, they're not target specific on what they want to change. Whereas, like with your program, you have a goal. What do you want to get out of it? What do you want to be at the end of it? You're target specific, so they focus on certain things. And I just noticed a lot of people when they don't do that. They'll just kind of go through the same program, the same movements, the same half an hour on the treadmill, and I just don't notice a whole lot of improvement. Um, uh, Whereas with a program like you've got, where you're there to push them, you're there to be a little more specific. I think that's definitely a lot better way to go.
Yeah. I'm very transparent with all of my clients, and I let them know. Like I said, I have very, very diverse clientele, very diverse. We all have to have three things in common, right, to work together. You have to be driven, compassionate, and mischievous. Now, you don't have to always have those three aspects of your life showing at the time, but somewhere in there, when you're suffering, you can let me know how you feel about me, or you can tell me a joke, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we'll leave the let you know how you feel about me at that. I mean, you guys can use your imagination. The most important thing that I think that that I take pride in is I don't allow my clients, my friends, my people, whatever it is, to give up. There's got to be a reason to give up. I've been in the woods and I broke my ankle horribly. Cool. I probably can't go too much farther, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to reach out to a friend. I'm going to try to do what I can. I'm going to belly crawl until I get help, whatever it is, right? Like there's always a way. There's always a way. And all of my ladies are the same way. I mean, I have some of the gnarliest.
So why do you treat mainly women? I mean, why? I'm sorry, not treat. Dr. Lingo. Why do you train mainly women?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. I had a very heavy female influence growing up, and I think that it has opened my mind to a little more of the listen, even though I talk a lot, right? And I'm excited and I'm always hyper, like I've, been eating candy all day. I think that there's several things that really set that whole dynamic apart. One, when I first started to train, I realized I was just a therapist. I'm going to move you around while you complain about whoever it is in your life, and those were my clients, and they wanted to talk and hear what I had to say, and they wanted to, and then I realized that I had this core group of women that didn't have an illustrious life growing up. They didn't have a great childhood. They'd seen some hardships that I'd never experienced, and yet they're still showing up. They're still pushing hard. They may not have the right shoes or some goofy outfit. They don't care. They're coming to the gym to let go of stress. And I ask everyone to show up from the neck down. You make decisions all day long, whether you're a mom, a wife, a husband, a boss, an owner. You're driving the bus full of crazy kids all day long for a profession. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you got to be able to burn that stress hormone, right? Mm-hmm. And to my knowledge, I don't have a PhD, so maybe we can talk to Hillary about this. But I think I'm pretty sure exercise is one of the only ways to scientifically burn stress hormone.
Yeah, so a lot of people run around in what we call oversympathetic mode, and you probably realize that. And stress hormones are like epinephrine, cortisol, those are all secreted in high amounts under especially high sympathetic stress, which most of us are doing now, and we're like just driving in traffic. So, exercise, especially cardiovascular exercise, is the fastest way, even just 15 minutes, I believe.
Yeah.
Getting your heart rate up will burn off enough cortisol and epinephrine to decrease the damage that it's going to do to your brain.
See, I told you we would get an answer to that.
Yep, there it is.
There you go.
But you're right, it is. It's really true, and that's why people exercise, and they actually feel better. The world is so horrible.
Right. And here's the deal. Here's the deal. Fellas, whoever's listening, whoever, let's just admit it. Women are tougher than we are. Women are tougher than we are. Once you gain the trust of a woman, especially in a coaching style scenario as a leader role, they will go to the edge of the earth for you. Their ability to push through discomfort and pain, and as long as they trust you, and if you can't get somebody's trust, then that's a whole different talk show, right? But the object of the game is figure out and listen what my clients need. It might just be, husband's been a jerk this week. Great. So I'm going to shut my mouth and listen and move them at a pace where they can vent to me as they need, and I can just listen. I don't have to try to fix anything. And I see that a lot of my clients, a lot of my friends may not have that just listening thing. So us as men, we try to fix everything, right? A Jesus complex or whatever you want to call it. I learned, probably not young enough, but
I've been yelled at far too many, Ryan.
Okay, well, Ryan, this lesson is for you, my friend. Sometimes just shut up and listen. Don't try to fix. Don't offer advice. Don't try to, So I get to offer that for a lot of people.
Man, that's hard to do, though. Isn't that hard? I mean, that's so hard for me to do. I think as men, we're like, when you get told a problem, your brain just starts churning, and you're like, man, I want to fix this. I think I could do this, or I could say this. Yeah.
It's just like training your body. You have to train your mind to listen, to really open your mind and to listen, and especially to take constructive criticism.
Right.
Because we're all guilty. Nobody wants to hear that they are wrong. And I think like this election process, you're seeing that hugely. There's so much finger pointing going on both sides. Everybody's mad, angry, upset, and to wholeheartedly open up and listen to somebody on the other side and to just put yourself in their position for just even 5 minutes and just listen. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them or you even have to say anything, but that is a learned skill. And that's Ryan and I have been married 20 years next year. And that's a learned skill if you want to stay married, men and ladies, but especially men.
Yeah, listen up, man.
Especially men who like to leave for weeks at a time and be somewhere where I can't get a hold of you.
It sounds so simple, just sit there and listen. And, gosh.
Yeah.
It just when it happens and you get that conversation, as a guy, I just revert to how can I fix this? What can I say to make this better?
You call Steven on the phone.
I guess I'm going to have to.
What do I do?
He's got it figured out, obviously.
I mean, growing up, I would listen to my mom on these endless phone calls where her friends would have a problem, and she was the person they called, and she would listen. She wouldn't talk that much, and I was always like, "How are you helping anybody by just being so quiet?" She goes, "Because they don't have anyone to listen to them." And so, and it's very gender specific. I mean, how many times, Ryan, have you been like, God, I just have these problems this whole week. Hillary just won't listen to me. It doesn't happen. That's not how it works, most of the time. So, and if it happens to me, I force conversation on that person until they break, right? Perfect scenario. You're going to talk to me. No. The most important thing for me is to give a product that's safe. It's a place where you can come and be vulnerable. You're the head of a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation, and you're under the microscope for everything that you do, except for when you go see Steven and he makes you do deadlifts and wall balls and running laps and all this kind of stuff. And if you have to vent a little bit, then vent. If you need to be told no, I'm the first person to tell you no. Which is another thing that I find with training all these ladies is a lot of them haven't been told no before, especially if they've got a little bit of power in their, in their working position or whatever. And that is therapy in itself. No,
So is it, are you training mostly at like a corporate level, like business folk? And, is that mainly your clientele? Or?
It's super diverse. It's just the like I said, I don't know what it is about the Rogue Valley or Ashland specific. I think it's just so quiet and it's so much slower. There's only 20,000 people here when, Southern Oregon University isn't in its swing. And it's also the Shakespeare capital of the world. So it brings in these people.
A lot of
Intellectual people. Yeah. And so even though my clientele doesn't shift very much, I have people for the long haul. I mean, I've got pretty much all the same clients I've had for the 4.5, 5 years I've lived here. with some add-ons, but I'm not actively searching new clients. Like, I have this awesome group of people that make me happy. I work happily ever after every day, and it's motivating. I don't mind waking up at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning because my crazy clients want to train at 6 or 7 or whatever. There's a competition for space, right? These people have big jobs and stuff to do throughout the day. And so, cool, man, let's get it done. Let's burn this off first thing in the morning and get started. So,
do you work nutrition into your program at all? Do you talk to people about nutrition, or what are your thoughts on what do you do?
You prescribe kale powder?
Yeah, right. Eat kale and sweet potatoes.
Kill your meat and eat your kale.
That's right.
Grow your kale.
Hunt and harvest. If you're not killing it, then you're going hungry.
That's right.
That's a really great question. And so here's something I'm sure Hillary is an absolute expert on. So I'm going to bounce this idea off of you because this is what I do. I take, let's just say, one of my clients, Angel, my longest running client, one of my most gnarly clients. When you talk about Stephen Dahn or StephenDahn.com or any of my fitness, anything, they say, any of these fit tests, well, what did Angel do? She's kind of like, she's the Trevor of my fitness clients, right? She's gnarly. She didn't grow up in a healthy environment. She didn't grow up eating good things. She wasn't active, nothing. I met her in a gym 4 years ago, stumbling over some equipment, and she told me she was into dog agility. I said, cool, let me see a video of your dogs, and their dogs are out running her. I'm like, oh my God, I think I can help you, And 4 years later, she'll smoke most of the guys in any of our obstacle course stuff. She can do, 15 or 20 body weight pull-ups. She's super functional, and it's because she wanted it, Mm-hmm. So for me, I couldn't talk about that's changing so many habits just to come to the gym, right? So what I talk about with my clients when I interview them, because they all ask, what should I eat? What should I, and they've got this is my makeshift notepad. They've got this notepad and how much water and, macros and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, holy crap, you haven't even made it to the gym yet. Like you haven't even come hiking with me yet. Like we don't even, what's going to have to happen, which most people don't take into consideration, is the 10 to 40 habits you're going to have to change just to come to the gym twice this week. Because let's say you have 2 kids and you're married and your wife or husband has a job that starts at 7. Okay. You've got 3 hours from 9 to noon or whatever, where it's your time and that's about it. Well, great. So you've got to get the kids ready. You've got this, you've got that, you've got driving around, you've got all the domestic stuff. How often do you get clothes ready? Do you make a snack? Do you eat at a certain time during the day? And then drive a whole different route to come and see me during an hour that you're not used to spending. That's a ton of different habits that you're going to have to change, right? Mm-hmm. So then I say, cool, start doing something you haven't been doing, making healthy choices with your fitness, nothing to do with nutrition. Show up at this time, twice a week, minimum of twice a week. I don't let anybody train less than twice a week because I feel it's a waste of your time, right? Mm-hmm. Show up a minimum of twice a week. Show up 10 minutes early so you're warmed up, so that way we get 60 minutes. We don't get 50 minutes or 45 minutes. Show up, get going. Now, after 2 months of that, 3 months of that, depending on the individual, let's talk about what kind of food you're eating. Because now you've proven that you can make these habitual changes that are pretty big deal for some people, but they're the tiniest little tip of the iceberg, which, Hillary, just exercising isn't going to do it. But if I say, no, here's 100 nutritional things, just throw that in your pack, right? And that's about 6,000 pounds worth of stress and drama. So what I've found in, forever that I've been doing this is the retention rate of come and work out and change all of your dietary is zero. I mean, it's zero. It's zero. I don't follow a perfect diet all the time. It's what I do for a living. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think what I hear Stephen saying is, baby steps. When you see a new client, they come in and you get them into the training, and it's a lot to take on is the entire diet. It's intimidating for somebody who hasn't kind of made it a lifestyle or they're just getting into it. It is intimidating, and it does, like you say, people are limited with their time. Every time I sit down and I meal prep for the week or this or that, I always surprise myself at how long it takes. I mean, it's a time-consuming.
It can be a whole weekend. Ryan will spend a whole weekend making and dehydrating food. for one trip.
Yeah.
Well, even just making healthy meals,
or making a healthy dinner.
It's just not as easy as throwing something quick out of a box on the in the oven. And, it takes a lot of time, and like you were saying, the folks you deal with, they might be a little pressed for time.
Yeah, totally.
Exercise is number one, and
studies show that people who exercise actually live longer than people who eat healthy and don't exercise. I think too, you got to think about the caliber. Like, what caliber do they?
Right.
You're obviously in phenomenal shape, and your caliber is set really high. And somebody who's, let's say, a figure competitor or bodybuilder, I did bikini competitions, a couple of those. Those are hard work. Like
they are.
Your caliber has to be set fairly high, and you need a lot of support. Part of the problem with a lot of people and why they pay a trainer, the truth is, I know a lot of stuff. I don't need a trainer. I know what to do. I think paying a trainer, you're held accountable to somebody. And at the same time, somebody is supporting you to make those changes. If you don't have a spouse or a partner or people in your life, they don't support you in giving you the time to go do that, you're just not going to do it, or you're not going to do it as effectively, or you're going to end up in a fight. And who wants to go burn off stress hormone and have a fight because they want to go get healthy and support from their other half?
Yeah, shoot, man. I mean, that's, and that's why I'm drawn to people like you guys. Just, fun, happy, just in love with life. I mean, that's my thing is I'm in love with life. I love to be inspired, and I surround myself with people that inspire me, and I try to do my best to inspire the folks that may not have that. And like you touched on this, one of the most important things, Hillary, is especially if you're a single man, single woman, whatever, and you don't have that person supporting you at home, that's one thing. But if you do have someone at home and they're not conceding to eating well, or they're not exercising, or they don't give you support, I mean, it's really difficult. It's so difficult, and I see that, and I see the struggle. And so sometimes, and it's not always successful. It's maybe a 50 or 60% thing, but try to get that spouse or that partner or that husband, wife, or whatever it is to come in and see what you do, And lately I've had a lot of daughters and sons that are going back to college, and they're going to go do their parents' little workout one time, and they end up, visiting the trash can a couple times because mom and dad are fit, and they are moving. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I want to eat a little bit healthier. I want to go to bed a little bit earlier. I want to, so it really, you nailed it, Hillary. It takes the tribe, man. It takes a whole village, and you can't do it on your own.
So do you have anything that you can do for people that aren't in Ashland? Do you have a clientele of people who aren't local? Do you do training programs?
Yeah.
Well, I get the motivation out of them, and
oh no! This is awesome, everybody. You should listen to this podcast while you work out. You'll get motivated.
All I got to do is thumb through my Instagram, and every day I think I see 2 quotes from Steve and Dahn, and they're always good, and they're always something I look forward to every day.
Well, yeah, thanks. And I try not to ever look any up, right? I try to go. My brain is always going, so I'm like, who really wants to hear that? You know what? I'm going to give a shot. No one wants
Sometimes I wonder. I'm like, man, did he come up with that himself?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, it's funny that you asked that, because just the past 6 months, I've been hounded by several people who are really into subscription-based whatever, right? And none of them are trainers or anything, but they're like, dude, you should be doing some kind of big subscription base for all the people. I've got people in Michigan and Florida and Colorado and whatever, and several of them I'm just kind of like satellite training. I'm not charging them, but that has nothing to do with the rest of you. So, just
you and Courtney definitely should do something. I've watched Courtney's stuff, and we definitely want to talk to Courtney in the future.
I don't know that they get any tougher.
Yeah.
You know what? I've chased that woman through, obviously I've chased her a little bit, but I've chased her through the mountain and gone, are you kidding me? Slow down. She came down, so we did some scouting last weekend, and so I brought her in to meet a lot of my clients, and we did this big group workout, and everyone's like, don't bring her back.
Yeah, they're like, don't want to see her.
we
She
are.
looks too good. She's too strong. She's too nice. Please stop.
We've
Stop
literally never seen the front side of her because she's always running ahead of us. We have no idea what she looks like, you know? So,
actually, when I first saw Courtney at Oregon Train to Hunt, I mean, I'm not doing the competition, folks. I'm babysitting, so I've got a baby on my hip, but it's pouring rain. That Oregon one was like a mud pit. We were camping in a tent with two kids, and it was like a mud bath. Ryan's like, you should do a train to hunt. I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll do that. Me and Kara Fraser are like at the playground with our kids. Go, oh yeah, we can totally do a train to hunt. And then here comes Courtney, and we're like, yeah, no, we can't do a train to hunt. We'll never. I mean, she's like watching some Greek goddess like stuff off a ship, and you're like the conquered, people. You're like, we're screwed. We're done. We give up. We surrender.
She's done it and seen it all. She's an absolute vast machine of knowledge, and so yeah, I probably should check in to see if she's beating me for steps today too, because of course she's turned that into a competition.
That's awesome.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's great.
I bought us those watches. I don't think I've worn mine in a while.
She's like, she'll be like, I'm because I renewed my watch, it was all broken. She's like, no, I'm gonna beat you in steps every day, and I'm like, no, you're not. And the first 3 days she smoked me, and I was like, oh, I better get this on. So yeah, I won't even get words in a text. It's just a picture of her watch when she thinks she's got me. So yeah.
And yeah, I remember you mentioning, how tough women are, and they're super competitive. That's the other thing. They're tough. They're competitive. It's been awesome watching them through these challenges that we've been involved with. But Courtney's obviously tough as nails. My wife Hillary, it's funny. I've been hiking with guys who, they'll get a little blister on the back of their heel, and they just turn into babies. But she'll get blisters, which would knock me down, and she'll just keep hiking. You'll hear about it, but it just keeps on going, and she'll finish it out strong.
Well, sometimes you don't have a choice when you're married to Stealthy Hunter.
So here's something.
You want to get out of the very dire situation, backcountry that you're in. You have to hike.
That's right.
Splinters. Splinters and blisters.
And to that note of women's toughness, most people don't know this, but 3 weeks before nationals, Courtney and I were running at a very, very, very high rate of speed, and she fell and possibly broke a couple ribs. For sure, separated 3 of them. 2 or 3. She competed nationals with that. Didn't tell anybody. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't run. She couldn't put a pack on for 3 weeks. And was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I ended up actually twisting my ankle really badly the same day. And I thought, we're obviously not good for each other. We keep eating it. So,
She ended up.
I had to suck it up because my ankle was really, really bad. But I'm like, you can't even breathe, Then she goes and wins the national championship. So I'm like, wow, man, I can never complain again, Yeah. So just reaffirms women are tough, man, and they're never to be counted out. And
they'll push you for sure.
No, yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You're a hunter. What's your favorite hunting story to date? Think back of all those trips out in the mountains. Successful, not successful. What's been your favorite trip?
This is easy. I was out on a solo hunt, I think 2 years ago, and I am way back. I'm in Lamper's land. I'm way back in Ryan Lamper's world, and
that's a good place to be way back.
It's a great place to be, man. That's where all my stress hormone goes.
Sure.
So I'm in this. It's bow hunting, right? Because I'm a bow hunter, and I'm in an old growth area where there's these little plots of clear cut. And there's an old growth stump that had been burnt. And I'm 6.5 foot tall, 225 pounds-ish, something like that. I take up some space, right? I have wide shoulders. And I could dance on the inside of this burnt out, hollowed out log, right? And it's probably 5 foot tall, maybe. And so there was these little burnt sections, like shooting lanes, where I'm like in a castle tower, right? So I could it's super stealthy. So I'm in there forever, right? Yeah, stealthy and Lamper's land. I tried to work both. So none of this stuff happens on accident, folks. So I'm in there, and I'm in there forever. And I'm kind of getting antsy and I just want to move a little bit. It's the dead of the day. It's hot. There's no way there's deer elk around. And I'm going to just leave my bow in the hollowed out stump or whatever and just crawl out. Oh, I've got a ghillie suit on. That's the other thing. I had to walk along this really long exposed area. And so I threw a ghillie suit on, covered in leaves and branches and stuff. So I look like a moving, basically a weed, right? Or a bush. And so I crawl out of this. It's not graceful at all. I crawl up and out of this stump, and I take 2 big steps, and I hear rustle, rustle, rustle. Well, there was these 2 does laying right next to me, and I can see a monster buck up on the ridge. That's going to come down to these does, right? And I'm like, yes! It'll be my first Oregon successful hunting trip. So I get out, totally forget about my bow because there's this big old stud up there. And so I'm knelt down, right? I'm left-handed. I'm knelt down on one knee, and my foot was bent like you would if you have boots on, right? And you kneel down, and that front part of your toes are kind of bent. So these does jump up and they run straight over to me. They run straight to me. I have no idea why. So I'm stuck there, half knelt down in like a lunging position.
You're like a big bush. They're
right. 47 minutes. Ooh. I'm stuck in that position as that buck is
hard on me.
Down. My feet are on fire. They're on fire. I feel like there's a blow.
You have your bow in your hand at this point?
I don't have my bow.
Oh.
I don't even have my bow. I'm like, I'm going to throw a rock at this deer.
I know. What are you going to do?
So I'm stuck there, and somewhere I've even got the video. I'm there so long, and I'm able to pull my phone out of 2 layers of ghillie suit, get a video of these deer walking right over and putting their faces right next to me, to where I'm trying to almost hold my breath because I don't want to spook them. This buck's coming closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. I can't feel my legs. I've been in this spot now 52 minutes, right? And I'm going, oh my gosh, I won't be able to walk the 8 or 9 miles out of here anyway, right? Because my legs are going to be destroyed. So this deer comes over, this doe, the smaller of the 2 leaves. This other deer comes over, and when she turns, she bumps into me. And she turns around, and she looks at me like, so much sass. I wanted to smack her right on the butt. What's wrong with you, So they walk off, and they lay down in front of me, and I'm stuck there till dark.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm stuck outside of my spot, no water, no.
And the buck never came down?
The buck never came down. So, yeah, like dehydrated. I'm tired. My legs are totally cramped. But I was like, hey, my scent's covered. Those animals never saw me, so it was my own little successful.
Yeah, you must have smelled like horrible or something.
I smelled pretty funky. Yeah, it was bad.
But not to be bumping into you and not even know what you're doing. That's like a good one. Wow.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say that they started feeding on your ghillie suit.
That's the only thing that was left. I felt their breath on me. They were so close. They wanted to see what I was. And at one point, the doe's in front of me going like this. Just that. You've seen them do that 100 times trying to figure out what you are. Yeah. And I'm trying not to laugh. I'm trying not to sneeze or do anything I can do. My legs are cramped. So, yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was the most uncomfortable and the funniest thing that I could remember because I'm like, what a hunter. I don't even have a weapon in my hand.
Yeah.
I'm literally being swarmed by...
What would have been worse is no weapon and that buck comes down.
Oh, man. I guess I'm a knife thrower all of a sudden. I don't know.
You would have been there all night.
Like, if you just stay right there, I'll be right back. I'm just going to go get my book. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Good story. Well, I've got a few questions just to kind of wrap this up. I want to ask this of everybody.
Fire away.
One of them is it's kind of a weird question. But if you had to tell people about yourself, what is Stephen Dahn's, what's your superpower? What do you feel like you're the best at? What's your thing?
I think my superpower is shooting down objections, meaning that perfect example. One of my dear friends and clients, a gentleman came in today and heavily affected by the election for a lot of reasons I won't get into, but has a personal connection and heavily affected. Not going to work, very successful businessman, very, very intelligent human being, a dual master's. He has a PhD, incredible human being, and he's like bedridden. I mean, he's hurting badly over this whole thing. And kind of my thing is go, okay, like I'm going to dedicate this 80% of our conversation to listening to you and saying, okay, look, I appreciate your concerns. Let's talk about this. Why it's affecting you? Why is this the reaction you're choosing to have, and why are you receiving this the way that you're choosing to receive it? Because there's certain things that we can and can't control. Like you can control whether you are coming to see me or not, right? What you can't control is maybe the people that might cut you off in traffic, or maybe this whole election thing or whatever. You had a little bit of part of that, but now that the outcome is what it is, you can only control two things: how you experience it and how you react to it, right? We can't control others. And so one of my favorite things to do is maybe talk you off the ledge, right? Just get you to go open your mind a little bit. So I guess my superpower, if that's what it is to go, look, I appreciate how you're feeling. I appreciate what you're going through. Let's take a different look. Like being able to see these struggles that people have from a different perspective outside of my own emotion. I don't know what kind of ride they had from home or work to come see me. I don't know what's happened with their family. It could be great, it could be bad, but my initial reaction can't be based on my emotional response to them. It's like I have to listen to them, right? And then every time that I do that, I feel like I gain these tiny little skills of understanding what that person needs. Well, hey man, this morning, Graham, he just needed to be heard. You know, he's a big, strong man, okay? He's a big boy. And sometimes, you know, everybody, superheroes need to just be heard, and it's you know, a vulnerable time. And I think that my power is to just say, hey, look, I'm here for you. I can listen to you and maybe offer you just a little bit of insight on why you're feeling this way, and maybe we can change your response to it, you know. And now go do some jumping jacks or something, you know. Burn that off.
Definitely.
So, converting the bad to the good is what I try to do. If that's my superpower, then that's my superpower. Yeah.
Awesome superpower.
Well, on the flip side of that, what would be your weakness? What would be something that you feel like you need to work on, or you need to do?
Saying no to ice cream.
Uh-oh.
We're being honest here. I have an ice cream problem. America has an ice cream problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
you heard it here first, people.
Yeah, you heard it here first. My weakness, honestly, I think that
bring an ice cream to the interview, and you might see Steve.
You got to say Ryan Lampers. You got to say Scott Carr. You got to say ice cream.
Okay.
No, I think that maybe it is. I do have a lot of compassion for my clients and a lot of compassion for people, and I think that maybe my weakness is not putting an end to that when it needs to be.
Not having better boundaries.
Not having better boundaries. That's right. Yeah. So, right. Absolutely.
That's hard when you care for people, though, when you're in a job where you are being empathetic all day.
Right.
And if you're an empath by nature, you tend to have very open boundaries, which means you're very affected. Other people feel great when they leave you, and you maybe don't feel as good. So that's
exactly right.
You have to develop that over time based on how much you can handle being an empath. You know, a lot of people aren't empaths, so it's easy for them to create really strong boundaries. But.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, I need to be able to absorb a lot of that, and I need to have the same amount of healthy deflection. You know, I need to make sure that I don't take everyone else's. I try to pull it out of them, but sometimes I need to just shove it aside, you know, rather than put it in my pack and take it home with me.
Okay, last.
What else you got? What else you got, buddy? These are good.
One more.
All right. Well, you know, I know you've done a lot in your life. You know, you've been to a lot of places. You've done a lot of challenges. You know, everything from the training to jiu-jitsu, train to hunt. What in your life are you most grateful for? What? I guess what I'm asking is like,
Whew, let me make this as short as possible.
I know. For people like you, this is like a really big question.
Oh, this is like,
deep, dude.
I need another 45 minutes. Some of my clients, part of their homework is to bring that. Is like, I want you to write down, you know, 5 things, not 20, because then you start watering it down. 5 things you're super grateful for. if it's someone that I see having a hard time or whatever. What I'm grateful for, number one, is unconditional friendships with my friends. You guys know, I love people. I love my friends. I love putting effort into uplifting my friends, and I feel a lot of that love back, and I never have done that and hoping for like a reciprocity. I've always, it feels good for me. It feels good, even if it's just a text message that no one will ever know about, for someone to reach out and say, like, if one of my friends that I moved away from in Florida just picks the phone up and calls and says, man, I just wanted to call and talk to you and check in. That makes my whole day. Like, that person is thinking about me. It doesn't have to be about me, but thinking about our friendship, right? Just like when I drop little notes, to you guys, Ryan, you're like my hero, man, blah, 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 kind of deal. It makes me feel good to let that person know you're doing awesome stuff in life and you're inspiring me, and I want to tell you, and I want to do that in person. I don't really, or, via this mechanism here, or maybe not just a text, but a call or a voice message or whatever. And I think that comes from, like, when you were saying earlier, traveling. I've been very fortunate to travel a lot of the world, and I have seen, there's first world problems here where we're at. Yeah. There's third world problems in a lot of the rest of the world, and I'm grateful that I don't have to wash my clothes in a runoff ditch. I'm grateful that I don't have to carry whatever it is that I've worked all night long to produce to hopefully sell to tourists. I'm grateful that I don't have to walk. I've spent a month in Peru a year ago riding motorcycles all through, and so I got to see all these amazing people that live in the Andes. That it's like, hey, if you go up to this certain lake, you can catch fish out of this lake, but it's 7 miles one way. You better get going first thing in the morning. And you're at 12,000 feet of elevation. So I'm thankful that I have so much at my grasp, but I'm also super thankful for the people that I've been lucky enough to surround myself with, and all the love that I get from them. So I like to share, like, this kind of stuff. When Ryan reached out to me, he's like, hey man, Hillary and I are doing something super cool. I'm like, immediately I'm in. I don't care what it is. I'm super grateful to get you guys' input and to give my input and to run my mouth for however long it is. And if I can touch one person or help one person or maybe open their mind to something, it's great. I mean, that's what I'm thankful for, is that, that community and the ability to realize that we've got it really good, So,
well, the world is small nowadays, right? Like,
yeah,
you can reach so many people now through something like this that we couldn't, that maybe don't even understand the lifestyle or don't know us, but you can actually in so many ways touch people all over the world that just want that motivation, and you can get that now. So
yeah,
that's what's, I think, really cool about this day and age, that
yeah, I'm grateful for super authentic, amazing people like you guys. I get inspiration from that, and I'm driven from it, and then I can, force it on everybody else. I mean, force it. It's forced.
Well, if that's what we're going to force on people, I guess it's not the worst thing, right?
That's right.
Some good authenticity.
You got it, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was looking forward to this. I mean, Hill and I, this is, we're just starting this up and we're trying to get everything figured out. We're definitely rookies at this podcast thing, but, some of the things that, just thinking about how we were going to, lay this out, who we wanted to talk to. And, like I said, first on my mind was Steve and Dahn. I just looking forward to talking to you and getting a little insight from you. And, again, I love following you on social media. I'm up here in Washington. I'm a little bit too far away from you, but
yeah. So what's your Instagram handle?
It is huntfit_08.
Okay, huntfit_08.
Yeah.
Follow him. He will motivate you. We will have in the show notes other information about Steven that he wants to share with all of you, as well as some of maybe the other things we've talked about, where he's at right now and where he's training. And if you're very lucky and you live in Ashland, you might be able to get into one of his training sessions.
There you go.
Well, Steven, thank you.
Really appreciate you doing this, Steven. Absolutely. It was fun.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm honored. Thanks so much.
Hey, folks. Thanks for listening to the Hunt Harvest Health podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, give us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Any comments, ideas, suggestions, feel free to shoot us an email at lampers@thehealthyhunter.com, that's STH, or go to our website at huntharvesthealth.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Stealthy Hunter or at Doc Hillary. Feel free to message me as well through Instagram, as I do really enjoy answering any questions related to gear, hunting, food, or you name it. Tag your photos as well if you'd like at Hunt Harvest Health or Get Stealthy, as we'd love to see what you guys are up to. Thanks.